Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time of year again. We welcome you back to the 1620 The Zone Theater at the 1620 The Zone stage. I'm your host today, Connor Happer. It's the third annual Chunky Awards. Woo! Please take a seat, settle in. I know this is a small theater. There's only 3 possible recipients for the awards this evening, but we have more than 3 awards to give away. I am happy to say, not to spoil too much, that everybody will walk home with something in their hands today.
Everybody gets a trophy.
Everybody gets a trophy, indeed. The 2024 Chunkies. Why do we do the Chunkies, Josh?
To honor the chunks of the season.
It really marks the end of the off season, because we do a lot of, for about a couple months, we're just staring at that schedule. By now you have it memorized.
It's on your refrigerator.
Yep. You've heard us talk about it enough, and you know that Nebraska plays UTEP, Colorado, Northern Iowa, Illinois, Purdue, Rutgers, Indiana, Ohio State, UCLA, USC, Wisconsin, and Iowa. You know it like the back of your hands. You might not remember which games at home and which games on the road. We'll use this as an opportunity to continue to educate people. But you've been doing a lot of thinking about the schedule. And what we're going to do is we're breaking the schedule into 3 chunks. They are in order. They're in order of which they happen, chronological order. They're not selected and then chunked out from there. They're in chronological order.
You can't cherry pick chunks.
It's 4, 4, and 4. And each of these chunks will be given superlatives. Of course, we will conclude the night with our most prestigious award, the most important chunk. A lot goes into this, Josh. There is, how Nebraska feels about its team this year, what the opponents look like, what their FPIs and SP pluses and win totals and all of this stuff. And trust me, we've done all of the math on it. But we'd like to welcome you all to the program today, to the show today. We're very, very happy that you could be here. And I'm happy to say that this is, it's the third time that we've done this. This is something that we just do now. It's maybe one of the stupidest things we do and one of the most senseless things that we do.
But for some reason, the audience has really glommed onto it.
Yes,
and we thank them for that.
It's us, handshake meme, the Chunkies. That's it. So we'll start light, and we'll move to the heavier, more important awards. Okay. Leonardo DiCaprio never won a Chunky. Still Chunkyless.
Sad.
And we don't plan on just giving him a Chunky for The Revenant anytime soon.
No. You
Not
gotta
going to happen.
Earn a Chunky.
Indeed.
There's no makeup Chunkies. Like, we should have given him a Chunky for that.
There's no lifetime achievement Chunky. The first Chunky of the night will be who's presenting this award, Josh? Who do we have?
The first one,
Alicia Silverstone.
Well, she could not. She was unavailable today.
She's poisoned and dead. Oh God,
I don't know.
Oh,
she'll be in the in memoriam segment.
All right,
later. I believe you will have the honors to give out the first award.
Okay, yes, I will. This award is called the Daniel Kaelin It Factor, Just the Two of Us chunk.
Okay.
All right. So if you don't know what that means, you missed the last 4 days. So Saturday, Matt Rule was like, Daniel Kaelin's got the it factor. And I was like, whoa.
Oh.
And then last night, he shows up on the Chasing 3 documentary right at the end, the credits are rolling, and up pops Daniel Kaelin in the team meeting. And he's up there very confidently ripping off Bill Withers, Just the Two of Us.
Oh.
He looked like he's got a little bit of a choir background to him. When Matt Rule's talking about the it factor, he's talking about that. He's talking about getting up in front of his teammates and ripping off some Bill Withers. So, this is the chunk. Basically, we're calling it the Daniel Kaelin It Factor, Just the Two of Us chunk. But what this is functionally is the chunk in which we might see Daniel Kaelin.
Ooh.
the Danny Kalen chunk. And that'd be chunk one. That'd be chunk one. Congratulations. First award of the night goes to chunk one. UTEP, Colorado, Northern Iowa, Illinois. All the games are at home. Nebraska should win at least 2 of those games via blowout. And Daniel Kalen has 4 games to play this year.
People
and
forget.
So that is the chunk where we will most likely see Mr. It Factor, just the 2 of us himself, choir man, not choir boy, choir man, Daniel Kalen. Congratulations.
Wow.
Congratulations to chunk one.
Just couldn't be happier.
So, Josh, we'll start at the bottom and we'll go up the list.
Okay.
We'll go up the list.
The second award of the evening, the Vala's Pumpkin Patch chunk.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
This is the period of time in which you are most likely to visit Vala's Pumpkin Patch. All right.
Sit in that big chair.
And sit in that and wait in line all day for that big chair to open up.
The nominees are
forgot the nominees.
Chunk 1.
Yes.
Chunk 2.
Interesting.
And Chunk 3.
Now, Chunk 1, it's a little hot, right, Josh?
A little hot for the patch.
Chunk 3, it's closed.
Yeah, you're done with the patch.
So that leaves just one chunk.
And the chunky goes to Chunk 2.
It had to be you. Right. It had to be Chunk 2. Chunk 2 at Purdue, Rutgers, Indiana, and at Ohio State. I'll give you a variety of opportunities to go to Vala's Pumpkin Patch.
Okay. Now you can get lifetime passes season passes, 2 of them on our website, 1620thezone.com.
So September 28th, you have an 11 a.m. game against Purdue.
Plenty of time afterwards.
To get to the patch, get in front of that fire, and toast up some mallows.
Maybe if it's a blowout, second half, you get in your car and you go. You listen to the game on the radio.
You're going to want to set aside the Rutgers game. You can't go to Vala's on that day.
Feels serious.
Then there's a bye week.
Ooh. Now, there are like many games of the century that day, but
yes,
you might.
But if you're not interested,
if
you just like college football for Nebraska, then go to Vala's Pumpkin Patch. Then there's at Indiana. Who the hell cares about that game? It's the least cared about game on the schedule. I don't care.
I almost forgot it exists.
Exactly. So that is kind of a bye week, coming off of a definite bye week. And then Nebraska goes to Ohio State, where they're going to get hammered. They're going to get clobbered. And so you could treat that as a bye week too. If Nebraska takes advantage of their first 7 games of the schedule, they might be ranked by that time. That might be Big Noon Saturday. So you can head to Vala's Pumpkin Patch on the last weekend. You'll have an opportunity to do so during or after the Ohio State game on October 26th. Ample opportunities to go to Vala's Pumpkin Patch during Chunk 2.
Love food, love fun, love fall. You love Vala's Pumpkin Patch best of all.
Indeed. Their next award. I want to announce the rest of these, Josh. You did a really good job, but I'd like to announce the rest of these.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Or maybe you can announce it. Maybe I could describe the award.
Yes.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay, you want me to read the title, though?
I will read the title.
Okay.
And I will describe it. You just tell us who wins.
Okay.
You're like the Vanna White of this thing.
I love this.
All right. This award is called the Why Does This Conference Have All Red Teams chunk.
Well, it's true.
At some point during the season, you'll be wondering, why is every team red? All right. So the nominees are Chunk 1, Chunk 2, and Chunk 3. And you're looking at the schedule and you're thinking, okay, there's no red teams in Chunk 1.
Nope.
There's 2 red teams in Chunk 2, but there's 3 red teams in Chunk 3, on top of Nebraska itself being a red team. And once again, it could only be Josh.
And the chunky goes to Chunk 2.
Chunk 2. This conference is stupid. There's only 2 blue teams. There's 1 purple team. There's 2 green teams. And there's a couple black and golds. Everybody else is red. Why is everybody red in this conference? It bothers me. We don't have as much variety as we should. Imagine a color like blue. Such a great color.
Sure.
Being so underutilized in a conference that is supposed to be one of the best and spans from coast to coast, coast to coast. I thought this was the diverse conference, but no, everybody's red.
Know how hot powder blue unis are?
Not very.
Not an option
Not
here
as
in the Big Ten.
Not as hot as red.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Everybody's red in this conference. And so we had to give out an award that commemorates the fact that everybody's red. Our next award will be called the Sigs Inside Chunk.
Ooh, sneaky big chunk.
The nominees are Chunk 1, Chunk 2, and Chunk 3. The Sigs Inside Chunk is the chunk that is most, that has the highest potential for emotional distress. Okay. Nebraska loses a game. It's nighttime. Your day's been ruined. And Nebraska played like absolute ass. And the only thing that you have left to do after drinking 14 beers on a Saturday,
that's right,
is to light up a cigarette in your basement with the doors closed. That's all you have. Sigs Inside is not a, it's not really a thing that you do as much of it as an emotional thing, an emotion that you experience.
I just want to be crystal clear. You're not having Sigs Inside with your daughter, are you?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't have any doors in my basement, okay. So I'm not having any cigarettes at all. But once again, it's a feeling more than it is an actual functional thing that you do.
A vibe.
So this is the award that will be awarded to the chunk with the most potential for emotional distress. Chunk 1, Chunk 2, Chunk 3, of course, are our nominees yet again. And the award tonight goes to Josh. Tell us who wins.
And the chunky goes to Chunk 1.
Interesting.
Controversial.
Interesting.
Connor.
Emotional distress.
This is the easy part of the schedule.
All right. So here's each of the chunks has a case. Obviously, there's going to be emotional distress in all of them.
It's Nebraska football.
It's Nebraska football. But there's automatically emotional distress in game 1.
Because it's game 1.
It's game 1.
You don't know.
You don't know what's going to happen.
You know, if they don't jump out to like 21-0 in the first quarter, you're going to just naturally be a little worried.
Game 2 will be a boiling cauldron of emotional distress. If there was ever a game that had emotional distress just attached to it, it's that one.
Boy, I was really looking forward to this game in July. Now I'm terrified.
It is. It's a scary game more than anything. Northern Iowa. A regionally difficult Missouri Valley FCS team that if you lose, you're a national embarrassment. Do not sign me up for that.
Only bad can come from the Northern Iowa game. No good can come from it.
Indeed. Same thing with the UTEP game. And then there's the Illinois Friday night where everybody gets triggered that they're playing on Friday night.
What about the high school sports?
This has emotional distress written all over it. But if Nebraska makes it clear those first 4 weeks, that first chunk, the emotional distress and your need to light up a cigarette inside your house will fade away ever so slightly, all the way up until Nebraska plays again. I think there's cases for all 3 chunks here, but this one in chunk 1, I mean, we're going in pretty high strung already. And obviously week 2 is, like I said, boiling cauldron of emotional distress.
Very much so.
Chunk 3, or chunk,
Next
award 5. Yeah, award 5. We'll call this the chunk of volatility. The chunk of volatility. The chunk of volatility. Not so much from the sense of what's Nebraska going to be. Not so much in Nebraska's potential results from the chunk, but in what the teams in the chunk might be when we get there. And the award goes to Vanna.
Connor, the chunky goes to Chunk 3.
Chunk 3. So let's think about this a little bit.
First chunky of the night for Chunk 3.
I know. They
were waiting a long time.
They were getting nervous. They were getting really nervous. UCLA. What's going to happen with that program this year?
Feels like a tire fire.
USC. What's going to happen with that program this year?
I literally don't know.
It's a big year for Wisconsin. And I think we have a general vicinity of an idea of what's going to happen with Iowa. They'll probably have won 8 or 9 games by that period of time, be putrid on offense, and we'll kind of go from there. So you know what you know about Iowa. Not a volatile program in the slightest. Wisconsin, with a coaching change and a philosophy change, a little more up in the air than they used to be.
They're going to turn the corner?
I don't like on paper right now, and as we've talked about it all offseason, that looks like a really challenging stretch. But you could convince me, just as you can of Nebraska, that, I mean, a lot of things could a lot of possibilities and permutations could transpire before Nebraska gets to that November 2nd date with UCLA, both for Nebraska and for UCLA, USC, Wisconsin, and maybe not so much Iowa, but Wisconsin. I don't know what any of those teams are going to be. So it's very possible that Nebraska doesn't take care of business in their first 7 games and then loses to Ohio State. And then you're like, you know what? This back 4 isn't so bad anymore. It's the chunk of volatility. Congratulations to chunk number 3. All right, we're getting into the big ones now.
Okay.
4 left to give away, including, of course, most important chunks. Stay tuned. We can check the text line here first before we get there. Happer's Meme Guy writes in.
Hi, Happer's Meme Guy.
I'm late to the party, but was the In Memoriam segment just sound bites of Happer before last season saying if they start 2-0, all bets are off?
Yes.
It should have been. Yeah. That would have been a good idea.
Would have been.
Alex and Lincoln, first cashless at Memorial Stadium, now participation chunkies. What is this world coming to?
This isn't the America I fell in love with.
Josh, I don't know. I don't get this reference, but you might. TC Chunk 3 was turning into the Susan Lucci of Chunkies.
Susan Lucci was nominated for like 14 consecutive Daytime Emmy Awards and didn't win until the last one where they were like, we
better give it to her. Yeah. Okay, there you go. Thank you for explaining that to me. All right, we've done the chunk of volatility. Now we head to the Beth Mowins Memorial Chunk. What does that mean?
R.I.P. Beth.
Well, you look at a matchup and you say, that matchup's got Beth Mowins written all over it.
Yeah, I know.
In which chunk, Josh, is that most likely to happen the most? Is it chunk 1, chunk 2, or chunk 3?
Chunk 2.
Indeed. Quite easily.
A lot of gray on
I think this is as self-explanatory as it gets of an award. In this chunk, Nebraska plays Purdue, Rutgers, Indiana, and Ohio State. 3 of those games are classic Beth Mowins games. Obviously, Nebraska's not going to get any Beth Mowins this year because the Big Ten is no longer a partner with ABC ESPN. But if they were, Beth Mowins would be doing all of them, and it would be cloudy and gray and sad, and there would be nobody at any of the games. And Beth Mowins would be there welcoming you from watching whatever's on ESPN2 before 11 o'clock. Not College Game Day. I don't know what happens on ESPN2 before 11 o'clock. But you flip over from College Game Day, and you have to go one channel up to or down to 30 from 31, and there's Beth Mowins welcoming you into very cloudy and gray West Lafayette, Indiana, where it's Nebraska and Purdue. Beth Mowins is the voice of that.
What weirdo Big 12 games is she going to be at?
I don't know. I am not sure what Beth Mowins' schedule looks like this year, but that one was easy.
Welcome to Iowa State, Kansas State.
Yeah, it's cloudy.
No, they wouldn't give her Farmageddon.
No, they would not. That game's huge. Beth Mowins Memorial Chunk belongs to chunk number 2. Now, these are the big ones. Oh, by the way, we'll check the Twitter one more time here. Jack John writes in.
Hi, Jack John.
Happer advocating going to a pumpkin patch during a Husker game. We don't miss a single play in this state. I'm just saying it's possible.
People do.
I'm just saying it's possible. And that is the chunk in which you'd most likely go to the pumpkin patch during chunk 2. But that was a long time ago. That award has already been taken home and put on the shelf by chunk 2.
We're not the Olympics. We don't take away Chunkies.
No, we don't bother with that. The least likely 4-0 chunk. The least likely chunk to go 4-0.
Okay.
Josh, who wins?
Let's not draw this out. I feel it's pretty obvious. Chunk 2.
Yeah. You look and you say, wow, Purdue, Rutgers, Indiana, but then Ohio State.
But Connor, what if Nebraska went into the shoe and Dylon?
It's the only chunk in which there's a guaranteed loss. I'm sorry. That's just the case.
26.5 is a big number.
Yeah. They're not going to go 4-0 in that chunk. They might go 3-1. That'd be great if they did. Beth Mowins would love to do 3 of those games. But
you think she pulled Nebraska's schedule and was just like, damn
it. This is so good.
I should have been there.
It's ripe for me. No, they're not going to go 4-0 in that chunk. Least likely 4-0 chunk is chunk number 2. Now, the most likely 4-0 chunk. The most likely 4-0 chunk.
Most likely.
Yes.
Connor
Just did the least likely.
shot.
Now, the most likely. Josh, this one's pretty obvious, too.
And the chunky goes to chunk 1.
UTEP, Colorado, Northern Iowa, and Illinois. All those games are at home. All those games are very winnable.
Winnable games.
Winnable games. Yeah. I mean, Nebraska has a good chance to go 3-1 in the other chunk. And then in the third chunk, all the games are toss-ups. So
can Nebraska win 4 coin flips in a row?
Yeah. Unlikely. Doesn't usually happen.
Right.
So in those first 4, you really have 1 or 2 toss-ups, 1 or 1.5 toss-ups. So, yeah, that's your most likely 4-0 chunk. And our final award of the night. The MVP. The most important chunk, a.k.a. the chunk of destiny.
Ooh.
The chunk of destiny this year. It's won a similar award tonight. And once again, I think it's pretty obvious. Josh, who wins our most prestigious award?
We don't want a La La Land moonlight situation here, so I want to make sure we get this right. And the chunky goes to chunk 3.
Pretty obvious, Josh. UCLA, USC, Wisconsin, and Iowa.
Anything could happen.
Anything could happen because we don't know what's going to happen to those teams. We don't know what's going to happen to Nebraska before it. They are the most evenly matched in terms of talent as far as a stretch is concerned. Chunk 3, I would say, is also the most likely sub 500 chunk. We didn't give out that award tonight, but it's very possible that Nebraska ends up 1-3 in those 4 games. I think some people are predicting that.
Very similar ending to last year.
I would say that it's very unlikely that Nebraska ends up sub 500 in any other chunk this year. So, it's obvious. It's the most important thing that they're going to do this year, and they should be expected to. I mean, in November, you got to win 2 of those games, right? So I think the right math equation here. We're going a little long. Sorry, I know they're playing us out. There's like the math equation here for a successful season is probably looks a little bit like this in chunk form. 3 wins, 2 wins.
That's 8.
That's 8, Josh. That's 8. 3, 3, and 2. Now, I could see a world where they're 4 wins, 3 wins, and 2 wins, or 4 wins, 3 wins, and 1 win, right? But like you're trying to get to 6 before Ohio State and then find your way to 2 or 3 more. And then you're going to be exactly where you thought you'd be at the start of the year, which is obviously right now. That's why we do the Chunkies, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we do it. Goon writes in, people getting triggered over Chunkies. Wow. I don't see anybody triggered actually at the moment, but
I would hope not.
It's a very happy night. It's a celebration of what we do.
This is us at our best. Take it or leave it.
Yikes.